Joining me now is former Virginia Congressman and senior advisor for the January 6th committee, Denver Riggleman, a good friend to us as well. Good to see you, Congressman, former Congressman. So the world's richest man, Elon Musk, has become one of the most powerful voices in politics, thanks to his influence, killing the original stopgap spending deal. Democrats are calling him co-president or shadow speaker, among other titles. Some Republican lawmakers even say he should replace Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House. What does it say about the GOP when a billionaire and chaos agent like Musk is calling the shots within the party? Is it a Republican thing, Denver, or is it a Trump-era thing?
Now it's the same thing, right, Alex? The Trump-era thing and the Republican Party are the same entity. There's no way to separate them now, and you would only separate them with much pain. But, you know, why would Elon Musk take the speakership? He already has doubled his wealth since Donald Trump was elected. He already has the president's ear. I think he lives in the Oval Office. He probably has a sleeping bag right next to the desk. You know, well, I mean, it seems that way, but he definitely is talking a lot, you know, to the president. The other thing, too, is what is the first thing the Democrats would do if Elon Musk was elected speaker? I think they would call for an ethics investigation. That's what I would do. Right. So I think that's a hard no, probably, for Elon Musk to be speaker. But the fact you have people like Marjorie Taylor Johnson, oh, my goodness, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
That. Yeah, that makes
my goodness. I think I just combined them, Alex. My goodness.
We're going to rewind anyway.
We're going to rewind. It's like it's Marjorie Taylor Greene. I think it's pretty amazing to me that there are people who would really consider that, but they are, because we are living in a bit of a fantasy world. If you think some of the people that's been elected, they still believe the January 6th election was stolen. They still believe in conspiracy theories. So why not have Elon Musk as speaker? And I think that's what they're thinking right now.
President-elect Trump supports those House Republicans calling for a criminal investigation of former Congressman Liz Cheney over her role in the January 6th committee. A House subcommittee stated Cheney should be investigated for witness tampering and accused her of colluding with former White House aide and star witness Cassidy Hutchinson. You were advisor to that committee. What do you make of all this?
You know, this is the CYA congressional report from the Congressional Oversight Committee, you know, or from the House Admin Committee, when you're looking at Barry Loudermilk. And I know Barry, and I know he had issues with the security around that. But once I read the 128-page report, which I know, Alex, it's crazy. I actually read it. There really is no evidence of that. Not only is there no evidence, most of it seems to be conjecture, innuendo, and hearsay. You have to have data to back up these types of, I would say, gosh, these type of referrals. I mean, they made a criminal referral on Liz Cheney. I think it's a bit ludicrous. But when you read the report, it is incredible how different it is from the January 6th report and how little evidence there is to back that up. And I think that's what people need to do. I really think they should go read that 128-page report, see how many times they use the word may or should, or that's probably what they meant. That's not a great way to do an investigation, especially if you don't have the data or the metadata to back it up. And so what you're seeing right now is you're saying them going after Liz. I think it's a ridiculous thing for the Republicans to do. And heck, Alex, I wouldn't be surprised if Donald Trump pardoned Liz Cheney just to make sure that she doesn't become a hero and a martyr for the people against him. You know, I think that's a move that I've been reading about, and I think that's something that could happen.
That is interesting, not make her into some sort of a folk hero. Let me quickly get to earlier this month with Trump telling NBC News January 6th committee members should go to jail. Well, his pick for FBI Director Kash Patel has called for criminal probes of committee members and witnesses, accusing them of providing false testimony and destroying evidence. Are you at all worried about political retribution for your role, Denver, on the committee?
Well, I mean, I'd be stupid to say I wasn't worried about it or had some concern, but I also am going to tell you something. I say bring it. I don't want a pardon, right? I don't want anything like that. I'd rather be in the fight. And I would love, you know, to have that opportunity to sit in front of individuals at the House wearing my congressional pen and talking about what I saw in the data for January 6th. I think that would be a lot of fun for the entire American public. But I do believe there are some people who have a right to be concerned about the type of retribution you're seeing here, especially if you have a Kash Patel leading the FBI. I mean, this is an individual who's, you know, just seriously underqualified and also is pretty much a January 6th QAnon guy. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the issue that we have right now. There are people that I think maybe might get a conditional pardon. But it's for people like me as a senior staff director, right? Senior staff, the senior technical advisor, and the person who looked at all the data. It might get to me. But I think there's other people who should be a little bit more worried. But again, I don't think Liz or Adam or anybody's really worried about it. I think they would enjoy the fight. That's really what that comes down to me. I would enjoy the fight. So I think they would too.
My bold and courageous friend, Denver Riggleman. Thank you very much for the chat. We'll see you soon.